herzlich willkommen zurück zu einer weiteren Folge What Remains of Edith Finch. Freunde, wir legen direkt los, bewerten, kommentieren und abonnieren nicht vergessen. Und ich bedanke mich natürlich wie immer bei den Leuten, die jetzt immer so nett mitbewerten. Immer weiter dranbleiben. Wir legen hier direkt los.
A poem for Gus, who always said the wedding was a bad idea. Our father never hit us kids, at least not very hard, before the day my brother said with teenage disregard that he'd be dead before he'd see a wedding in our yard.
Woo!
My father made him come, of course, but Gus stood far apart, just flew his kite and bottled up the storm inside his heart. I tried to talk him out of it, but though he'd never met her, "We don't need a stepmom," were the words that
I now pronounce you husband and wife. Make him cry.
Okay, ich finde hier gerade den nächsten Schriftzug einfach nicht. Ah.
When the time for photos came, Dad ordered him to come here. But Gus declined, and as a sign held up his middle finger. The wind picked up, and panicked geese appeared and quickly went. But all the humans did that day was go inside the tent.
Okay, neuer Text. Oh.
The rain came down in buckets then, but no one seemed afraid that nature might destroy the tent our dad had crudely made. The thunder sounded much too close and full of angry power. But all my father said to this was, "Make the music louder." wish that I could truly say I thought about you on that day. Out there on the beach alone, just you, the wind, the sea and foam. But I didn't, until we found you.
She never talked about him, but Mom told me once if I was a boy, they were going to name me Gus.
Okay. Nee, also diese Familie hat wirklich alles, aber kein Glück. Das ist ja wirklich ein durchgehendes Familiendrama
My mom
hier.
moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
Aber nicht hier oben.
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay. Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English. Louis was born a year later. When my dad died, I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back.
Ich denke mal Thymian, Basilikum, Minze, das, keine Ahnung, Milton.
And to see kids in the house again.
Edith, Dawn.
The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that. And for a while, things were good. Almost normal. But it didn't last. The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle. After Milton disappeared, the only thing he left behind was a room full of paintings.
Okay, wenigstens mal nur verschwunden und nicht verstorben.
Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Nett.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared.
Jetzt, der ist nur verschwunden.
Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors. Whatever Milton had found in the house, Mom didn't want it getting out.
Ich muss aber sagen, das Haus ist ziemlich cool. Mir gefällt das. Und hier komme ich natürlich wieder nicht vorbei.
Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Louis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
Louis.
Everyone always told me to stay out of Louis's room. Except Louis.
Okay, aber hiermit ist die Sache doch zu 100% noch nicht gegessen. Nein. Ist das hier ein Boot? Das ist ein riesiges Boot.
Louis's room smelled very, very familiar. That part of him lived on.
Ey, no! Nicht wieder rausgehen! Ei. Videospiele, Shisha, Hasch, sprich Ganja und eine Haschpfeife. Legalize Marihuana. Na, gemütlicher Lebensstil hier.
He was so proud of being Indian. I think for him, it was a way to be something other than just a Finch.
Ja, den Wunsch angesichts der Familiengeschichte kann man ja verstehen.
Louis and I spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life. He kept working at the cannery. But he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. His mind began to wander. I asked him to describe it. He said he started small.
Wenn ihr euch fragt, ich
Imagining a labyrinth.
gehe hier und mache die Fische gleichzeitig.
He'd feel his way about. Then something moved. Bats. And toads. and things that have not names. He knew it was all in his head. But he took it very seriously.
Das ist echt Stress pur gerade, oder wird es mit der Zeit?
But he found something more. I worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss. But he said Lewis had become a model employee. Methodical, tireless, focused. Like a whole new Lewis.
Okay, und irgendwann ist wahrscheinlich die Hand ab oder so.
I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick. Then he made musicians. And songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band. And he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew stronger. He no longer spoke at the cannery. But his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination, so he could do whatever he wished. He held an election for mayor, and he won. They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Even as his mother pleaded with him, part of Lewis kept sailing on. In Louisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen. Queen was on her own quest for radiant rainbows.
Ah!
He followed the sound of her electric sitar. His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Even then, his logic remained sound. He knew the world was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me. It was hard to argue with him. Began to forget the world we know. I think it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker.
Ich werde hier nicht zu viel
He began to
dazwischen
despise the
quatschen,
man with a royal contempt.
um die Atmosphäre nicht zu zerstören.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions. Including the wise Calico who'd insisted on advising him.
Ihr habt doch alle keine Gesichter. Molly? Molly die Katze?
His queen waited, holding his crown.
Was für eine Musik.
There was only one thing left to do. rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Ja, liebe Freunde, derbes Ende von Louis. Ich werde hier aber die Folge mal beenden. Ich hoffe, es hat euch gefallen. Freut mich, wenn ihr es bis hierhin geschafft habt. Lasst doch eine Bewertung, Kommentar und ein Abo hier. Ihr verpasst keine weiteren Videos mehr und es würde mir sehr weiterhelfen. Ja, ansonsten noch einen schönen Tag oder Abend, je nachdem, wann ihr das Video seht. Reingehauen, Leute, und ciao.